Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Salted Hash. I'm your host, Steve Ragan. Today, we're being joined by Troy Gill from AppRiver, and we're going to talk a little bit about phishing attacks and a little something called conversation hijacking. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Troy, how are you? Thanks for joining me.
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, obviously, AppRiver sees all kinds of email-based attacks every day, every hour of the day, all week long, all month long, all year, etc. My thing is I was taking a look at your 2017 report, and something stood out to me. It was the conversation hijacking attacks. Really clever stuff. Real quickly, give us a breakdown on what CHA attacks are like and how they work.
Sure. Yeah. Well, CHAs is essentially a subset of an account takeover attack, which there are many different flavors of. In this situation, what we're seeing is a massive utilization of compromised email accounts to launch attacks from. I would imagine most of those have been gathered through data breaches as well as prior phishing campaigns where they're duping users into disclosing their username and password. Generally, it's under the guise of, to see this document I sent you, you need to put in your password, username and password, and then they've got you, right? So a lot of those accounts are Office 365 accounts, not all of them, of course. So once they have gained access to your account, they're going in and they're kind of taking a survey of the landscape, if you will, seeing what you got going on, and then setting up some rules and whatnot to first disguise the activity that they're about to perpetrate against you. So the next step is to go in and the conversation hijacking is basically a play on them going in, opening up a previous email conversation that you've been having with someone that you, in all likelihood, know very well, work with on a regular basis, and we're just having a back and forth with. And they simply follow up that conversation with a reply back to that person who is their actual target with a very generic kind of, hey, by the way, I need you to check out this document. And the documents, they're pretty much exclusively using Word documents with embedded macros. We have seen some that have some RTF exploits being leveraged as well. So they send that reply back. The person on the other end, I'd like to say we do a fantastic job of blocking those. But the person on the other end, one thing that makes it so evident to me that this is a very good tactic on the part of the attacker is, well, one, they're sending malware attacks from a well-known, very trusted resource. And two, anecdotally, we get a lot of calls from our customers who have noticed these messages being held in their malware quarantines. We have a system here where we will notify you with an email if something gets held from a contact of yours, someone that you converse with regularly. We do that as a, productivity. We don't want, if we do have a false positive, we want you to know about it. So they'll get alerted to that, or they'll notice it in their held spam reports that they get overnight. And they'll contact us and say, I can't release this message. And that's because we don't allow the end user to release malware. So they're forced to contact
really
their
smart.
admin. Yeah, I think very necessary in a lot of cases. So they'll contact their administrator, which he'll reach out to us, and they've already sort of made an assumption that, I was just talking with this person. Of course, they sent me this email, and then we inform them, of course, that that person's account has been taken over, and the attachment actually does contain a link to some pretty nasty malware. Typically, what we see being delivered with these attacks, for the last 2 months, it's been almost exclusively the GoZ banking Trojan, which is pretty complex, as you probably know. So it's a very organized process and in some regards very effective. Genius social engineering, of course.
Oh yeah. So when it comes to like the attacks, you said they're using Word documents with macros and maybe even a couple RTF exploits, but are they really just kind of targeting low hanging fruit at this point? Because I mean the like Word documents with macros, that's like awareness 101 that you've seen drilled into people on a regular basis. So is it kind of like the Nigerian 419 scams? They're going after the people who they know absolutely are going to fall for this, and they don't care if the others spot them from a mile away?
Well, I mean, I don't know that they know who their intended recipient is, but they know who their bread and butter is, if,
Okay.
so to speak. So, of course, they are, to the end user, they don't know. Most of them don't even know what a macro is. So, and a lot of organizations have, and I always recommend to ban them completely. And if you need to make exceptions where people in your organization, and it's usually a small group of people, need to get them legitimately, poke those small holes
Yeah.
in your filter. Don't open the floodgates and then hope for the best. But so I think they're targeting people who are uh, anyone willing to click, right? And once they've got a foothold in your organization, they'll move laterally throughout. Actually, the Gozi banking Trojan has evolved quite a bit over the years. So really, in the most clear sense of its theory, but to get into your organization, they just need to get one of these people to click. Gozi incorporated a long time ago the Eternal Blue exploit, so it's got worming capabilities. It's got a lot of evasion built into it, even to the point where it can trick biometric detection by emulating cadence of keystrokes that a user normally uses and mouse clicks and that sort of thing. So I think really it's always been in this arena just very much a numbers game. If I hit X number of people, I know I'm going to get a small percentage, but that's enough to fuel the fire to keep it going.
Oh yeah. Especially if it equates out to enough to just cover the base cost of the kit, then after that one person or two people, that's it. It's profit at that point. Doesn't matter if you have low numbers or not. So moving off of the trend report, here lately, what are you seeing out in the wild, phishing wise and email threat wise? What's standing out to you?
I think that the all-encompassing term of BEC has been embraced quite a bit. There's a lot of evidence from what we see that there are multiple skill layers capitalizing on this trend. So you'll see campaigns ongoing that are extremely organized, extremely detailed. They're doing a tremendous amount of recon. They might even be using a compromised account to gather intel just to build rapport and to build in that pretext of information for the ultimate attack that's coming down the road. And from what I've gathered, what's publicly available and also jives with what I see, I think the average attack is netting like $130,000 or something like that per attack.
It's not bad.
And it's not bad for a few days sending some emails back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. And they gather the data they need to legitimize their attack, generally on sites like LinkedIn, right? So they know who in the organization handles what. They got names of the people in finance. Executive names are always extremely easy to find. So there's certain flavors where they're posing as the executive of that very same organization, and they're going after someone to send a wire transfer for whatever reason, an acquisition, an overdue invoice. And then there's also a lot of cases where they are posing as a vendor of that does business with that company, and basically duping them into paying an invoice to a new bank account because they recently changed their account information, and they're doing these large wire transfers. So as all these attacks go, they usually include a lot of urgency in the transaction, or our CEO is really upset that this payment hasn't gone through yet.
Yep.
Yet we need it. So there's always that element of urgency, and then people get intimidated by higher up the chain you go, and they're always very willing to help. Of course, they'll prey on that aspect of human nature as well. So that all comes together, and we've also seen a good deal of what I can imagine is quite kind of lower level attackers that are capitalizing on these same techniques. Kind of a ramp up in that in the past, say, month or so. These seem to be less organized. They're going for smaller amounts. Last week it was iTunes. They were really trying to dupe users into, and again, posing as an executive at that company and trying to dupe users into getting some iTunes gift cards that they really wanted to send to a great client, and just expose those pins on the back and send me the pictures, and I'll get it all taken care of when I get back to the office. And then just this week, they kind of shifted to wire money transfer service called RIA. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Which I hadn't really heard of it.
What is that?
It's just a kind of like a Western Union kind of thing. I think they operate them out of certain retail stores where you can go in and just do a kiosk or a desk and do a transfer to a family member or someone, I don't know, a supplier, who knows what they're doing. But yeah, so they're kind of going for smaller amounts in these cases. So everybody's kind of piggybacking on what they have seen being successful in the attack arena.
I'm just wondering if like the smaller amounts keeps them hidden. Like that's the whole point, where they just stay under the radar that way. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would decrease the likelihood that they would have any real law enforcement attention going after them when there's, other perpetrators that are walking away with, I know of a fact, companies get taken over $1 million in some of these attacks. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
So I guess now that we're about halfway through the year and we're moving into the second half of 2018, is there anything in particular that you think organizations need to keep an eye out for heading into the final push for this? I mean, we've got all kinds of news items that are going to be noteworthy coming up to make easy lures, midterm elections, things like this. You've got sporting events going around right now with the World Cup, and I mean, is there anything you're starting to see a slow creep on that people should keep an eye out for, or is it just business as usual right now for the criminals online?
I'd say yes and no. You mentioned current events, and that's something that's always on their radar to exploit. So certainly someone who's got their hands in something like that would be a larger target. The overall theme here that we're seeing is more personalization, more directed attacks. They know more about their target. Happenings in the world and all of that can also be integrated into those to give them more effectiveness. So I think that's something to be on the lookout for. Back to the BECs, there really should be a widespread effort for organizations that are not already doing this to just put in place very simple two-factor authentication process on any sort of wire transfer activity. That would go a long way into stopping a lot of this. A simple text message to that person, that's just the way it goes. If you want to request that, you get a text, you confirm.
Or a phone call or a straight face-to-face meeting. Walk down the hall.
Phone call even better. Yep. Yeah. So, and if you are really anyone in an organization, this is an old tip, but don't advertise on Facebook that you're out of the office.
Yeah, no.
Because now they're paying attention more than ever, and they're going to utilize that and use it against you. So.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention the fact the elusive out of office responses. If you blast an email company, you just collect who's out of office. Now you know who you're targeting or spoofing.
Right. Absolutely.
So Troy, thanks a lot for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully, I don't know what I did to my jaw, man, but I'm telling you what, it hurts. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch up. You're going to be out in Las Vegas this year? We're going to get to see you out at Black Hat and DEF CON?
Yep, I'll be out there.
Excellent. So maybe you and I should let's do another road show with the spam arena. We'll talk about some stuff out there. But thanks again for joining me. I do appreciate it. And if you'd like to see more about BEC attacks or any other type of email crime that you could easily detect and prevent, check us out online at csoonline.com. And again, my name's Steve Ragan. This has been Salted Hash. I'll see you next week.